going to the finals. We going to the finals. We gonna win the championship. Complete the process. Trust the process. We got Harden. Let's go. Woo! Hello, folks. Today we'll be talking about James Harden officially being traded to the Philadelphia 76ers. Finally, the Sixers did something right. Yes! We're back in it. We are back in it, and Ben Simmons is gone. Let's go. So, let's discuss how the trade went. The Philadelphia 76ers trade for James Harden and Paul Millsap, while the Brooklyn Nets got 2 first-round picks, Steph Curry, Andre Drummond, and Ben Simmons. So, to me, I think both these teams, they got pretty good deals, with one getting James Harden to help Embiid out because he needs a point guard badly, while the Nets got some good assets. So to me, I think it's a pretty good deal for both teams. I think Brooklyn got the better deal because Ben Simmons, we still don't know if he can come back to his player like we know him for as Sixers fans. If he can play that level, then the Brooklyn Nets are going to have some good opportunities because they also got a good shooter, and they took away Embiid's best center backup, which has rarely happened for the Sixers. So the Nets, they got their guys. The problem for them is discipline, and we have to see if they're disciplined with Kyrie Irving only playing for away games, KD coming back in the lineup soon for them. But the Sixers, they finally got what they wanted with Daryl Morey, who has been with Harden his whole career mostly, has got back with him, and they made the trade finally. And so we get to see James Harden in a Philadelphia 76er uniform. We get to see that. So with James Harden coming into this, he comes in with about 26 games left for the regular season until playoffs, which Sixers are making the playoffs, folks. But with the Sixers' loss of what they have to improve from that trade is have the next shooter, which is going to be Tyrese Maxey, whether it's shooting guard, or James Harden, whichever Doc decides to go with of who's running the offense. Then you have to find out who the backup center is going to be. It could be Isaiah Joe, or you go in the buyout market to see who's available. And then you have Matisse Thybulle taking over for Ben Simmons' position, which those two guys are both great at defense, so that helps fulfill Ben Simmons' role with the Sixers. So Matisse will be taking that spot. But looking at this trade, I compare it back to the Jimmy Butler trade for the Sixers. Because Jimmy Butler, he was bouncing around the league. So is James Harden. You can go look at from Jimmy Butler from Bulls, Timberwolves, Sixers, and now Miami Heat. Whereas you look from Harden, he was from the Thunder, Houston, Brooklyn, and now Philly. Even though Harden's the better player, both of them have had similar paths in their career and never had playoff success. They've never had that. Both of those guys are clutch players. So this is where I'm talking about where I see them being the same guy, of having the same career aspect. But the thing about with Jimmy Butler, he did not want to be part of the Sixers after that Kawhi Leonard shot, despite what happened. Because Jimmy Butler helped the Sixers out from that Game 6 against Toronto. And now you look at it with James Harden coming in, Sixers have got to get him to love the team. They've got to get him involved. They've got to make him feel welcome. They've got to make him feel welcome in this team. And the Sixers have got to extend him and keep around with Joel Embiid, because this duo with Embiid and James Harden could be the best duo since Kobe and Shaq when you look at it. Because Embiid is one of the most talented centers of all time, whereas James Harden, he's not like Kobe with his mentality, but you look at some similarities a little bit, it's the same when you're looking at it. It's going to be interesting to see if that duo can keep it up. So I really compare this to Jimmy Butler's situation because it really was alike of how this is going to go. And James Harden, he's going to step up as a leader. He's going to help this team out, get some points, so be clutch for the Sixers, obviously. So this is going to help us out. But it all comes down to, can the Sixers get past the second round and win the championship? That's something the Sixers have got to do, and we'll see what happens with that. But talking about James Harden real quick, this dude, he's clutch. He's a star. He's a great player. The bad thing about him, growing weight, so he doesn't have that athleticism he kind of has, which kind of hurts the Sixers a little bit, because if you had him back with the Houston age, that would be great. But when you're looking at it from James Harden, his stats and career, he's slowly declined just by a little bit, but he's going to elevate with the Sixers with this Embiid role he's going to play with. And James Harden, he's going to be a great player for the Sixers. But looking at his playoff disappointments were Game 6 against the Spurs a couple years ago without Kawhi and Danny Green during that time. And then you look at Game 7 against the Warriors, where he shot 5 for 31 in that fourth quarter. So you need James Harden when you look at this playoffs coming up, because the Sixers have been disappointed in the playoffs. I know that. We've seen the Kawhi. We've seen Boston. You've seen the Hawks with Ben Simmons not being able to slam dunk it. You see this, and it's similar to what the Sixers have done. Now you just hope. You gotta hope he's your savior. He's your savior is what you gotta hope for, James Harden. You gotta hope that beard helps the Sixers out. You gotta hope for that beard. During the second half of the regular season upcoming for the Sixers, this is going to help build chemistry with Harden and Joel Embiid. So Maxey might be running the offense a bit, but eventually it's going to have James Harden. He's going to have to run it. So this is where you're going to have to see James Harden step it up a bit and take that leadership role for the Sixers and help them out with being benefited of building that chemistry with his teammates. So you're going to see a lot of pick and roll with Embiid and Harden, which is going to be pretty awesome because you're going to have to double team, as Doc said in the press conference, where you're going to have two people on Embiid and Harden, which frees guys up like Tobias, Matisse, and Maxey. You're going to see all those guys available being freed up. That's going to help the Sixers out by getting more space out in the open floor with Embiid dominating the paint. Your shooters with Harden and Maxey outside in the perimeter, getting those spots. The Sixers, they did a pretty good job. I still think Brooklyn won the deal, but there was a deal that had to be made because the Sixers, they weren't going to win the finals. They might have won the East if they were lucky, but they had to do it since Ben Simmons was never going to play for the Sixers again, and they just had to get rid of him because that contract was going to hurt the Sixers, and now they deal with Harden's contract, which he opted in for next season, which helps the Sixers because he's with them for 2 more years, and then an extension is going to have to come soon. So we're going to have to see if the Sixers are going to want to extend him or not. So that's going to be something to watch out for in the years upcoming for this. To me, this Harden deal is necessary, and I like the move for the Sixers. Although he gave up some key assets, some of them I wish we could have kept, maybe like Curry, which it was obvious we're going to have to trade him. Drummond, I wish we kept him. Draft capital, it didn't matter to me because those picks are not going to matter for the Sixers, really, because they're late first rounders, and the Sixers always have those second round picks that they can just trade up for. So I think the Sixers got a good deal out of this. But then looking at this team individually with the offense and defense, it went great. The defense, that hurts a little bit, I feel like, because Drummond out, it hurts Sixers' chances of who's going to step up when Embiid either gets hurt or when he has to go sit on the bench for a couple minutes when we have to give him some rest. So that's going to be something to watch out for when we're looking at this. And then you lost Steph Curry, who's a great shooter, so you have to have Maxey or Harden fill in those shoes, which I expect Harden to fill in those shoes of overcoming that definitely because I think Harden's a better player than Steph. But when you look at that, Steph kept making those threes all the time, which was amazing. But Harden, he knows how to make those. He has that motivation of getting it in there. So I think Harden's going to really do well for us. But towards the defensive side, you lost Ben Simmons, who is one of the best defensive players since last year, but he didn't play at all, so we have no idea what his playing ability is going to be like or if he plays for the rest of the season or something like that. Then you look at Matisse Thybulle. He steps up. He's your best defender for the Sixers, so he fills that role. That's good for them. Then you look at the point guard where Maxey, all right in the defense, where Harden can do very good on the offense, but the defense, that's his weakness a bit. That's where he weaknesses a bit, where Harden's going to try to get a lot of fouls. That's going to be happening soon. I bet the first game he's going to try and get a foul. But the defense-wise for him, he's not done great in his career. He's not been a great defender. Then you have Joel Embiid, who has that mobility. We know him. He's the MVP right now. MVP. So we know this, that he has that defense and a capability to win that. He knows how to be dominant. He's learned from his mistakes. He's going to keep exceeding. Now it's just about, can Embiid help Harden, or can Harden help Embiid build that chemistry and keep going sky high and be the next Kobe and Shaq? That's the question for the Sixers. And then you also have Tobias Harris, who's underrated, who has performed well this season for the Sixers, has been a solid contributor, averaging close to 20 points per game. That's pretty impressive for the Sixers. Just looking at this team, I still think they're a great team. Just looking at the Brooklyn Nets right now of how they're not ready and injuries and who knows what with Kyrie Irving, like they're dysfunctional right now. But Brooklyn's going to know what to do next season. But this season we're in right now, I think Brooklyn takes a step down while Philly rises up and takes the division. Then you look at from who in the East is like the biggest competitor, which I think it comes down to, if we're looking at from Sixers side, it's the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks, reigning defending champs with the big three, Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, and they still have some good bench pieces, and they just got Serge Ibaka the other day. It's going to be hard to go against the Bucks, but I think we match up well with the Bucks when you're looking at it, because you're going to have Giannis and Embiid clashing together. They're going to have Middleton against Harden, and then you're gonna have Holiday open against Thibault. So it all meshes together, and this, like, both these teams are very well matched. So it's gonna be very interesting to see if the Sixers can take over the East like they did last year in the regular season, not in the playoffs, because they're very good in the regular season, but never good in the playoffs. We saw it last year. I think the Sixers, their best chances are if they beat the Bucks, they win it. They get to the finals. Right now, I still think the Bucks are a little bit higher. That is only because Harden and Embiid have not developed that chemistry yet. But once they develop that chemistry very soon, the Sixers, I think they have a good shot. I think they have a very good shot at taking the East. But it's all going to come down to, is Harden going to fill those shoes of helping the Sixers get to the finals and win it? Can he beat the Bucks? I think it comes down to Harden is my question. Of his playing ability, we all know what he can do. So it comes down to that. And I give Daryl Morey credit that most people give him for, because he took a lot of heat ever since that Ben Simmons saga started, with him not coming, fining, all of that drama, Ben Simmons. Like, he took a lot of heat for that, and he started fining, and he stayed to his guns. He stayed to it, and he finally pulled the trigger and got rid of Ben Simmons when he said Ben Simmons could have been here for 4 more years. And no one really thought that. But he eventually got it done, because the talks were just starting up the last couple days, trying to get Harden, and he won an All-Star in return for Ben Simmons, and he got that deal. While I think he gave up a little too much maybe for James Harden, I still think it was worth it, because we weren't going to go anywhere, and the Sixers, they got Harden, so it's going to be pretty cool to see what Harden and Embiid can do on the floor together. My one last thing is Doc Rivers has got to help this team out, and he's got to use Harden very well, where I compared this situation again to the Jimmy Butler situation, where Brett Brown did not really know how to use Jimmy Butler. He only used him for the fourth quarter of just giving the ball the all time. He played him in all the other quarters, but not that much. He saved him for the fourth quarter to be that dagger. And with Harden, Doc can't do that. Doc can't use him just in the fourth quarter. He's got to use him all 4, and he's got to play him well. He's got to use him, and you got to keep a good relationship with Harden if you want to keep him for the future, so we can have Harden and Embiid for the next couple of years. I would want that. I'm pretty sure you guys would want Embiid and Harden to be together for the next couple of years. I'm pretty sure you guys would want that. But that is it for my video today, folks. The Sixers, they finally got the deal done that they wanted for this time for Ben Simmons. And so, can the Sixers get to the finals and win it all, or beat the Milwaukee Bucks? That is the question for the Sixers, and time will tell when we get to the NBA playoffs. But folks, leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I want to keep building this community around. I love you guys with the comments, all the likes, all the watching. I love that. Let's keep growing it. We're already at 150. As we said last video, we'd get it. Already there. Now let's keep going. We're not stopping. We are going sky high. We are never stopping. Let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends, tell your family to subscribe to the channel. Trust the process has occurred. Now let's complete the process. Harden, we got Harden, we got Harden. We're going to the finals. We're going to the finals.